Hello, welcome back to another segment in excerpts from A Spiritual Ascension. So I got a lot going on in my head right now. So hopefully I could bring it all together for you guys, okay, as far as talking about Christ consciousness. First, let me say that when I first had my first awakening back in 2012, and again, you've probably seen some of my videos saying that, I knew the religion that I was in was not the right religion. And then trying to say, okay, do I choose a different one? What is it that I'm looking for at this point? And that's when somehow I came across spirituality. As I said, started reading all these different books by different authors on spirituality. And I'm saying to myself, why is there only one Bible, but all these different religions? But then all these authors have written different books about spirituality, but they're all saying the same thing. And that's what like things kind of clicked. And then, I'm the kind of person that I'm Sagittarius, so I'm very philosophical, if I could say that correctly, and just wanting to know more, digging deeper, digging deeper. And in 2018, I started studying metaphysics. And that kind of tied everything together, talking about higher consciousness and that we are one. And then they came across this because I had kind of put the Bible to the side. After having been raised in religion for, um, I think I left when I was around 25, 26. I didn't want to have anything to do with the Bible. I was so angry at that point. And um, when I came to the part in my studies talking about Christ consciousness, and I'm like, why are they bringing like Jesus Christ in here? And um, then once I understood what it was all about, because I already understood that there was a connection with all of us, that we are all one, and understanding that concept about we are connected with the divine and that we are one consciousness with the divine. So when they introduced this thing of Christ consciousness, and then I read it and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what, I had thought it to be. I just want to read, I just Googled real quick Christ consciousness. It is the universal divine consciousness that recognizes oneness of all life and the inherent divine um, I can't even, divinity, can't read my writing, divinity within each individual. A state of being that transcends the ego and the materialistic world. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I had studied all of that back in 2016 and now, I'm sorry, 2018. And now here it is like 7 years later. And I hadn't got my books that I had studied previously out until kind of this time of coming across this thing of Christ consciousness. And went out on to say that in the Bible, Jesus is saying that the Father and I are one. And many people take that to say that he is also God, or that's a kind of a confirmation of the Trinity. That he was, raised back up to be with God or be a part of God. And a lot of people still in this world look to him as being God. So understanding that, and I'm like, but that is what ascension is, for us to raise our consciousness to this higher level, um, to be in line with the consciousness of the divine, right? Or if you want to say universe or the cosmos, whatever, this ultimate power source that is running through all of us that we are a part of, right? So I was watching this movie last night, really interesting, because it's hard for me to keep my attention. Like sometimes I'll start a movie and I have to cut it off halfway through because my patience and my concentration can't. But it was going back to I forget what it was called, but it was going back to, I've got all of a sudden I find myself always falling into these rabbit holes and just wanting more information. So I dig down and then I find something else and I dig down into there and I find something else and I keep going, keep going. And lately been really interested in kind of understanding. Well, I've always been like, not always, but I say since really my ascension journey started in 2020, looking more into the pyramids and um, saying, okay, well, how were they built? And no one really has an answer to that. So I've been digging a lot into that. So this movie was about when I guess it was around 4 or 5 AD when the Roman Empire had um, the Roman Empire was over Egypt, which I never knew at all. And there was still a lot of people there who had their Egyptian beliefs from centuries ago. So now the Roman Empire had come in, and then also Christianity had just started to trickle in. And kind of in this movie, the heroine, whatever, she was a philosopher, and she was kind of trying to figure out how um, the Earth and Sun worked if we went around the Sun or if all the planets went around the Earth, and kind of Christianity coming in um, and saying that you have to, worship, all of you people have to worship this way. And I was like I kind of start getting upset because it's kind of like we have free will to believe in any way that we want to believe, right? So that movie really stirred me. And then I started thinking, I also heard someone describing um, that the cosmos, the universe, our higher power, however you want to refer to God in a way. I don't refer to what other people think of God because I think that term has been used so much in a wrong way. So I would rather use like spirit or the divine, something like that, because it really, in a way, there's a lot of different gods, right? Um, but saying that there's always been this consciousness, right? Forever and ever. And this consciousness developed people, mankind, humankind, in order to have experience. So consciousness itself cannot experience things that we experience. So it experiences what we see, what we hear, everything, what we smell through us. And that's another way of saying that we're all one, we're all um, one with the divine. Okay, because, and also it made me really think too that um, the divine has allowed us through free will, right, to have our own paths in life. And we have many, many lives, so we get to choose what paths we're going to have in each life. To have many experiences, to have many lessons, to have many experiences to that the consciousness, this consciousness, can live through us in a way. Um, and if we look back, in that movie kind of triggered, look back to just this killing and, um, the slavery that was back then and has continued on, up until our time even. And just man kind of controlling other men. And we didn't have that. We're not having that free will like we should have. Let me just take a quick drink. I'm sorry. Um, and it's kind of like the divine is feeling all of that for centuries since, and the divine doesn't have the same time that we feel timeline. But if the divine is sensing everything that everyone is going through, there gets to be this point where the divine is like, I don't want this stuff, you know? Um, and that's the reason why we're at the point, if you are here on this journey, and there's probably a reason why you are here on this channel, that it's probably gotten to a point where the divine is saying, you know what? Mankind, humankind has been killing each other, enslaving one another um, for centuries and centuries. And the consciousness of humankind has kind of depleted. And I can't say I, but I'm talking as the divine is saying that, like, I don't want to feel this. It's kind of just like when you have people around you and you pick up on their energies, and it's just not a good feeling. And maybe people that you work with every day and they're just loud or vulgar or whatever it is. And like sooner or later, like you probably don't want to be around that. You don't want to have that in your energy, right? So it's kind of like why we have chosen, right, in this lifetime to come here to earth to have these lessons that we are going through and to take this ascension journey to this Christ consciousness or higher consciousness, right? We're already one with the divine. Everyone is one with the divine. But the divine wants us to all raise up to that higher consciousness. Okay. I hope that's clear because when I first started this, I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to kind of put into one ball here. Um, but I just find it so interesting. And like I say, always do your own research, 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 research. And like we can never know too much. There's so much to know from the past, things that have been fought for, just like I saw in that movie last night, like people were fighting for their beliefs, and knowing what you believe, and that if you are on this journey, there's a reason why you have chosen to be on this journey in this lifetime at this time. And as you raise your consciousness, right, higher and higher, it's going to help you to bring others along with you, because, right, we're all connected, we're all one, to bring others with you into that higher consciousness. Okay. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to spend some time with me, have questions, you would like a reading, um, there's a link below to book time with me. I've also done several courses on the ascension process, and that link will also be below. Okay, see you next time.